Season 1 of Yellowstone introduces John Dutton, the owner and operator of the Yellowstone Ranch, who faces a potential terminal cancer diagnosis and grapples with his mortality. John contemplates his family legacy and plans to leave the ranch to his eldest son, Lee, the Dutton child most loyal to his father. While managing the ranch, John faces constant conflict with Broken Rock Reservation Chief Thomas Rainwater, who aims to reclaim Yellowstone for his Native American community. Additionally, land developer Dan Jenkins seeks to buy and develop the ranch's land. Casey Dutton, John's youngest son, is estranged from the family and lives on the Broken Rock Reservation with his Native American wife, Monica, and their son, Tate. The feud between the Duttons and Broken Rock escalates when Monica's brother, Robert, kills Lee. In retaliation, Casey kills Robert, forcing John to cover up the murder to protect his son. This tense situation strains Casey's marriage, as Monica fears his violent actions will affect their child. With Lee dead and rivals closing in on Yellowstone, John seeks support from his remaining children. His daughter, Beth, arrives from Salt Lake City to handle the ranch's business affairs and attempts to keep Dan Jenkins at bay. Beth struggles with substance abuse and rekindles a volatile romance with Rip Wheeler, a ranch hand John took in as a teenager. Meanwhile, Jamie, a lawyer, tries to position himself as the family's moral compass but is distrusted by John. Jamie's relationship with Beth is particularly contentious. When Governor Linnell Perry offers Jamie a chance to become Attorney General, John gives him an ultimatum: politics or family. Jamie chooses politics and is removed from the Yellowstone family business. In response, Jamie approaches a journalist investigating allegations of murder and manipulation involving the Dutton family. Elsewhere, Rip Wheeler leads the branded ranch hands, who are fiercely loyal to John and willing to engage in unsavory actions to maintain control of Yellowstone. One of John's old friends asks if the ranch can take in his grandson, Jimmy, a troubled young man in need of a fresh start. Rip and the other ranch hands, including Lloyd and Colby, mentor Jimmy and give him a sense of purpose. As the season ends, Thomas Rainwater and Dan Jenkins form an uneasy alliance against John. They plan to build a casino on Yellowstone's borders. Casey, realizing Monica and Tate are better off without him, returns to the ranch alone to protect it as a legacy for his son. He joins Rip and the ranch hands in their efforts to secure the ranch, capturing and hanging Dan Jenkins for his scheming. In Season 2, John Dutton learns that he does not have cancer but rather a ruptured ulcer. With his health no longer in immediate jeopardy, he focuses on securing his family's legacy and draws Case closer by appointing him as ranch foreman, much to Rip Wheeler's resentment. John fully reconciles with Case, expressing his intention to leave Yellowstone to him. Casey reconciles with Monica, who agrees to move to the ranch with Tate. Jamie's campaign for Attorney General falters after losing financial support due to John's influence. Although Thomas Rainwater offers assistance, Jamie withdraws from the race to appease his family. Tormented by guilt over revealing family secrets to a journalist, Jamie kills the journalist and returns to the ranch, remorseful and broken. Meanwhile, John, Chief Thomas Rainwater, and the still-living Dan Jenkins form an uneasy alliance to combat the Beck brothers, ruthless real estate moguls with ambitions to take over the region. The Beck brothers enlist white supremacists to achieve their goals, employing violence and intimidation. They send men to attack Beth, but Rip intervenes just in time and saves her. To kill Dan Jenkins, who isn't lucky enough to have Rip save him, the Becks also orchestrate the kidnapping of Tate Dutton, sending the Duttons into full war mode. The vengeful Duttons and their ranch hands kill an army of white supremacists. In the end, John and Case work together to kill the Beck brothers. As the season comes to a close, John decides to include Rip in his will, emotionally recognizing him as an official member of the Dutton family. Meanwhile, Casey's reunited with his kidnapped son Tate, bringing him home safely to Yellowstone. Season 3 finds the Dutton family trying to move on from their past dramas and continue their simple life on the ranch. John Dutton steps down as livestock commissioner to appease Governor Perry after the violence against the Beck brothers. Now, he is free to enjoy a semi-retired life on the ranch while teaching his grandson Tate the ropes. In John's stead, Jamie becomes the new livestock commissioner, though his father still doesn't fully trust him. When Jamie is offered the interim attorney general job, Case becomes the new livestock commissioner in his place, in addition to his responsibilities as the foreman of Yellowstone Ranch. Casey's wife Monica begins reconnecting with her Native American roots and even starts building a partnership with Chief Thomas Rainwater. Jamie's strained relationship with his sister Beth is revealed to be due to his handling of teenage Beth's abortion. When Beth sought Jamie's assistance in finding a clinic, he chose one that required sterilization procedures, leaving Beth unable to have children. Upon this revelation, John Dutton is furious with Jamie. After discovering that he was adopted, Jamie meets his biological father, Garrett Randall, who had murdered Jamie's mother when he was a baby. Beth's work in finance with the bank Schwartz and Mayer and her ties to the Dutton Ranch put her in opposition to Market Equities, a firm that aims to buy Yellowstone Ranch and surrounding properties to build an airport and ski resort. Rourke, a representative of Market Equities, is tasked with securing the deal by any means necessary. The Duttons are offered $500 million for their property or face a legal battle that would force them out. Despite these challenges, Beth finds joy as she rekindles her romance with Rip Wheeler, and the two get engaged. Rip continues to lead the ranch hands and hires Teeter, adding a woman to the team. Teeter fits right in and forms a relationship with Colby. Meanwhile, Jimmy begins a relationship with Maya, a barrel racer who encourages him to pursue his dream of being a rodeo star. After suffering serious injuries in a rodeo event, John Dutton agrees to cover Jimmy's medical expenses on the condition that he gives up rodeo. However, with Mia's encouragement, Jimmy continues riding until he is thrown from a horse and left unconscious. Rip and the ranch hands eventually confront Wade Morrow, a neighboring rancher and old rival of John Dutton. Wade and his son Clint, secretly working under Rourke's orders, escalate their feud with the Duttons by trampling Colby and Teeter nearly to death. Rourke's plan is to provoke the Duttons into taking illegal retaliatory action, strengthening Market Equities' legal case to seize the ranch. The plan works as Rip and his crew kill Wade and Clint. As the season concludes, the battle between the Duttons and Market Equities intensifies. Willa Hayes, Market Equities' CEO, has Beth fired from Schwartz and Mayer and convinces Jamie and Governor Perry that the airport and ski resort are in Montana's best interests. However, John Dutton remains determined to fight for his land, allying with Thomas Rainwater, who opposes the development because it would prevent him from reclaiming the land for his people. Their partnership sets the stage for a fierce legal and territorial battle. The court case gives Willa the go-ahead to do whatever it takes to close the development deal once and for all. As the season comes to a close, the Dutton family members become targets of several assassination attempts. Casey is attacked by armed gunmen in his office, Beth faces a bomb explosion in her old office building, and John is gunned down on the side of the road while helping a stranger change her tire. In Season 4 of Yellowstone, all the Duttons survive the attacks on their lives, though some suffer worse injuries than others. Unaware of who orchestrated the attack, Rip takes revenge on the Duttons' current antagonist by killing him with a poisonous snake. While recovering from his wounds at the hospital, John meets a teenage boy named Carter, who becomes an orphan after his father dies of an overdose. Beth brings Carter to the Dutton Ranch, where she and Rip take him in. As they bond, Carter reminds Rip of his own childhood and how John took him in. Beth is hired by Market Equities' new CEO Caroline Warner. From the inside, Beth schemes to prevent the firm from buying her family's land. Jimmy, despite stern warnings from John and medical experts, continues dangerous rodeo racing. John sends Jimmy to train at the 4-6's ranch in Texas to become a better cowboy. While there, Jimmy falls in love with a woman named Emily. When he returns to Yellowstone with Emily as his fiancée, John blesses their union and allows Jimmy to stay in Texas permanently, even paying off his extensive medical bills. Meanwhile, John and Casey begin violently taking out the hitmen involved in the assassination attempts, hoping to discover the mastermind behind the plot. Thomas Rainwater helps John identify the man who supposedly orchestrated the hit squads and imprisoned felon named Riggins. John tasks Casey with asking Jamie, the Attorney General, for help in obtaining Riggins' official prison files. This request serves as a test of Jamie's loyalty. If Jamie hesitates, it may indicate his involvement in the plot. Jamie agrees to help Casey and discovers that Riggins' former cellmate was none other than Garrett Randall, Jamie's biological father, who served a 30-year prison sentence for murdering Jamie's mother. Although Jamie had grown close to Garrett, the revelation of Garrett's violent past and connection to the murder plot causes Jamie to question their relationship. Just as Jamie is ready to confront Garrett, his ex-girlfriend Christina arrives with a child she claims Jamie fathered. Jamie reconciles with Garrett and his newfound family and begins planning a run for governor of Montana. Governor Linnell Perry, who has an on-and-off romantic relationship with John, informs him of her decision to run for Senate and endorses Jamie as her replacement. John, warning Perry of Jamie's disloyalty and incompetence, expresses his desire to run for governor himself. Governor Perry ultimately endorses John, which infuriates Jamie. John also develops a relationship with Summer, an animal rights protester. Beth orchestrates a protest by Summer's activist group at a Market Equities-owned site, then arranges for the police to arrive, leading to a violent confrontation. The protest becomes a PR nightmare for Market Equities, prompting Caroline to fire Beth and vow to steal the Dutton family's land and have Beth arrested. Summer is also arrested and sentenced to 14 years in prison for assaulting an officer. John convinces the judge to reduce Summer's sentence, but remains furious at Beth, threatening to kick her off the ranch. After Beth offers a sincere apology, John forgives her. Meanwhile, Casey, Monica, and Tate move to a ranch of their own. Casey grows closer to Thomas Rainwater and his right-hand man, Mo. Although Monica discovers she is pregnant, her relationship with Casey becomes strained when Avery, a former Yellowstone ranch hand, re-enters their lives and professes her love for Casey. When a wolf appears on Casey's property, Mo encourages him to undergo a Native American ritual. Casey spends 4 days in the wilderness without food or water, seeking clarity and spiritual guidance. Casey has a vision that he believes foretells the end of his relationship with Monica as the season comes to a close. Beth has a quick, last-minute wedding with Rip before enacting her own plan to ensure the safety of her family and their ranch. After discovering Regan's connection to Garrett and Jamie, Beth confronts her brother and threatens to publicly disgrace or murder him if he doesn't comply with her demands. Jamie ultimately kills his biological father, Garrett, and disposes of the body while Beth secretly takes photos of the crime. Beth returns home to the ranch and informs John that they no longer have to worry about Jamie's loyalty because she now controls him. In Season 5 of Yellowstone, John Dutton is sworn in as the new governor of Montana, and his first act is hiring Beth as his chief of staff to help officially shut down Market Equities' land development plan. Caroline Warner is furious over these actions, and Senator Linnell Perry warns John that Market Equities won't give up easily and will fight even harder for the Dutton family's land. To strengthen his position as governor and fight Market Equities, John aligns with his former rival Thomas Rainwater and publicly condemns a pipeline being built on the Broken Rock Reservation. Meanwhile, Monica goes into premature labor and, against Casey's advice, attempts to drive herself to the hospital. Unfortunately, she gets into a car accident and loses the baby, who she and Casey name John. As Casey contemplates his spiritual visions that may foretell the end of his relationship with Monica, he supports her in grieving, and they grow closer together. Rip and Beth continue to raise their adopted son, Carter, teaching him about life on the ranch. When wolves begin killing cows on the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch, Rip and the ranch hands take action to kill them. Unfortunately, the wolves were tagged as part of Yellowstone National Park's wildlife, forcing Rip and the crew to cover up the illegal killings. John then assigns Summer the task of helping him fight the court case regarding the wolf incident. Beth remains bitter toward her father's new younger lover, but Rip encourages the women to confront their differences, which eventually leads them to mutual respect. The ranch's cattle become infected, forcing John to send them to Texas for their survival. This costly and time-consuming expedition is led by Rip, along with several ranch hands, including Teeter, who shares an emotional and romantic farewell with Colby. With his duties as governor keeping him away from the ranch and many ranch hands gone on the cattle drive, John officially places Casey in charge of the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch. Meanwhile, Beth discovers that Jamie has a son. She vows to have his custody revoked. Jamie begins an affair with Sarah Atwood, a Market Equities representative, who convinces the resentful Jamie to use his position as Attorney General to find a loophole allowing Market Equities to continue their land development project. When John and Beth use their political positions to have the Yellowstone Dutton Ranch protected as a state-controlled national park, Market Equities convinces Jamie to publicly call for John's impeachment in exchange for backing his campaign as Montana's new governor. Beth threatens Jamie with the photographic evidence of him murdering his biological father, but Jamie remains defiant and threatens to expose the Dutton family's history of murders and body disposals at a secret location known as the train station. Realizing she has lost control over her brother, Beth reluctantly suggests to John that they kill Jamie. Fearing for his life, Jamie makes plans to hire professionals to kill his family. Assassins hired by Sarah Atwood ambush John Dutton, shooting him dead and staging the scene to look self-inflicted. John's children are devastated by his death, and although the scene was staged, Beth is certain Jamie was behind it. As Rip and the ranch hands lead the cattle to the 4-6's ranch in Texas and reunite with Jimmy, Rip learns of John's murder. He races back to Yellowstone to comfort Beth, who swears vengeance on Jamie. Jamie, now distraught over John's death, begins to regret his involvement in the plot. After his father's death, Jamie finds solace in Sarah, who encourages him to seize this opportunity and claim the Dutton family empire for himself. Jamie convinces Montana's new governor, Stephen Rawlings, to proceed with acquiring the Yellowstone land through eminent domain and allowing Market Equities to develop it, much to Senator Linnell Perry's dismay. Meanwhile, Casey, Monica, and Tate attempt to rebuild their family with a fresh start on Dutton land, but John's death threatens their newfound peace. Casey joins Beth in her quest for revenge against Jamie and enlists the help of his old Navy SEOL friend, Cade McPherson. As Case becomes more entangled in this dangerous plot, Monica fears it will permanently destroy their family. Casey convinces the medical examiner to re-examine John's body, leading to the case being officially reopened by Detective Dillard. Sarah, fearing she may be implicated in the murder, is shockingly assassinated, silencing her permanently. Cade assists Case in tracking down the assassin, Grant Horton. Instead of killing him, Casey spares Grant's life, but warns him never to approach his family again. Detective Dillard investigates both John and Sarah's deaths. While examining Market Equities and Sarah's properties, he discovers Jamie profited heavily from the Yellowstone lease, giving him a motive for John's murder. As Dillard closes in on linking Jamie to John's death, Jamie seeks comfort in Christina, the mother of his child. Christina encourages him to publicly denounce Sarah and profess his love for his father, vowing to seek justice. Meanwhile, Chief Thomas Rainwater and his right-hand man, Mo, continue their battle to prevent the construction of a pipeline under their land. Political rival Angela Blue Thunder assures her supporters the pipeline will benefit their community, causing division within the Broken Rock Reservation. Mo leads a group to destroy the pipeline construction materials, preserving the reservation from corruption. Back on the Dutton Ranch, tragedy strikes when Beth and Rip's adopted son, Carter, is cornered by a horse in the barn. Although Colby saves him, he is trampled to death, leaving everyone devastated, especially Teeter. Spirits on the ranch sink even lower as legal battles with Market Equities loom and a crushing property tax bill threatens bankruptcy. Beth and Case reluctantly realize they must sell off the land piece by piece to survive. Rip enlists his old friend Travis to sell the ranch's equipment and horses, providing just enough funds to keep the ranch afloat for another year. Casey realizes the only lasting solution to their problems is to sell the entire Yellowstone Dutton Ranch. He and Beth strike a deal with Thomas Rainwater, selling him the land so its history can be preserved. In the agreement, Casey retains a portion of the property for his family to live on with Monica and Tate. With the land saved, the Dutton family and their friends hold an emotional funeral service for John. Beth later confronts Jamie, declaring that with Broken Rock now in control, he will never be able to take the land for himself. Their confrontation escalates into a brutal fight, ending with Beth killing Jamie. Rip helps her cover up the murder by dumping Jamie's body at the infamous train station. In the aftermath, the Broken Rock Reservation takes over Yellowstone. Although the Dutton farmhouse is demolished, Thomas and Mo honor their promise to preserve the family's legacy. The ranch hands scatter to pursue their own futures, with Teeter taking a job with Travis in Texas. Casey, now free from the burden of the Dutton legacy, finally finds peace with Monica and Tate. Beth and Rip, having bought their own property away from Yellowstone, live happily with Carter, ready for their next adventure together.